Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today we'll be talking about the overall astrology for November, outlining the key themes along with certain specific dates that will be important in terms of key events for next month. So with November, the key dates in question will be the 4th of November when we have the full moon in Taurus, the 18th of November when we have the new moon in Scorpio, the 21st of November when Neptune turns direct, having been retrograde since June, and the final date is the 22nd of November when the Sun moves on into Sagittarius, marking a different theme going forwards. So at the moment the Sun is in Scorpio, having moved there on the 23rd of October and staying there till 22nd of November. And during this time, one of the key themes here is transformation through letting go of the old self. So around this time we may well find that our shadow side is being triggered a lot, where interactions with other people is highlighting where we've got an old emotional pattern at play or that hasn't been released yet. And we generally find this when someone says or does something which our minds see something similar to something that's happened in the past, and we get an instinctive, raw emotional response to it. Now, we may not necessarily know why we're responding in that way at that point, but it's important that we reflect on these emotional responses that we're getting and try to identify why do we feel this particular way and what is this situation teaching us about our own shadow side. Because in interactions, it's never the light side of ourselves that gets that's going to be triggered into a painful response. It will always be our own personal shadow is being highlighted to us, and that's why we're getting a strong, raw emotional response to it. So during the time of Scorpio, it's a very good time for exploring our own shadow side, the darkness within us that we may want to pretend doesn't exist, or may try and hide it from other people, but eventually that side will come out. There's only so long you can suppress the shadow side before it comes out through an unexpected route that you weren't prepared for. So the more consciously we delve into it, by observing our reactions to what people say, what they do, and asking ourselves, why does that thing bother us? Why are we feeling this particular emotional response, as opposed to reacting neutrally? And what we usually find is that something about the situation mirrors our own past in some way. Maybe something that we've done, someone else we're not proud of, or it may well be that it's very similar to something that we've been on the receiving end of, that we thought we dealt with, but it still has a bit of raw emotion attached to it that we need to release once and for all. So this is a key theme for Sun in Scorpio. And it's going on for the first 3 weeks of the month. So during this time we do need to have the courage to take that inward journey, to look within the deepest recesses of our own minds and make peace with it through accepting it, because only by accepting our own darkness can we actually transform it. If we reject it in any way, our own shadow side becomes more powerful, not less powerful. So this is a time where we need to bring our own light to our own darkness, illuminate those recesses within us that we may not realise are there, so that we can transform them and empower ourselves in the process, so that situations outside us no longer have a power to control our emotional states. We have sole power over our internal response to things, and things no longer have that power. Now at this time we'll also have the full moon in Taurus on the 4th of November. So with Scorpio it can feel like very heavy energy, and we can become so focused on our internal landscape that we forget to remain grounded in the body. So sometimes we can become disassociated from our bodies because we're so obsessed with our minds and our emotions. Taurus reminds us to go easy on ourselves, to relax and remember to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. So spiritual growth may well be painful at times, it may well be hard, especially when we're dealing with shadow sides, but we need to remember to enjoy the positive sides at the same time. We can't become so obsessed with looking at the shadow side of things, looking at darkness, that we forget that there are so many simple pleasures around, so many beautiful things. And the more we can become grounded in the body, the easier the process of transformation can become. Because when we're grounded within that internal feeling of the body, we're in a position where we can actually transform those energies within us, because when we're fully grounded in the body, which the new moon encourages us to do, we're present, and it's in the present moment that all transformation takes place. So the Taurus full moon reminds us to balance the deep subconscious need of transformation with the physical side of ourselves. So it's the inner and the outer. Taurus generally deals with the surface level of reality, so the physical senses, touch, smell, taste. So all the things that our physical body senses. Scorpio deals with the deeper levels, so beyond surface level of reality, to the deeper meaning of things, to the source of what's going on. But when we're going on that inward journey, we have to be careful that we don't become lost there, or don't become obsessed and paranoid about the darkness. Taurus reminds us to lighten up, to remember to enjoy the simple pleasures of life, like a good hearty meal, physical touch, like hugging people that we love, and just to lighten up and enjoy the fruits of our endeavours. As long as we don't become attached to our possessions, we don't become attached to the results of things, if we can enjoy the fruits of the spirit, enjoy the gifts of nature without feeling the need to control it, without having our consciousness dragged into the material world rather than staying focused within ourselves, then we can find that happy balance between Taurus and Scorpio, which is the essence of this full moon. And it's also a time of reflecting on the end results of whatever objectives we set at the Taurus moon way back in spring. So there'll be another video on this going into more depth later on, but this is just a basic overview. The next date is the 18th of November, so this is the new moon in Scorpio, so this is a point of potential new beginnings, and these new beginnings will be in the areas dealing with Scorpio, so things like transformation, the relationship we have with power, do we trust other people, so when we're with other people, are we self-conscious and are we a little bit hands-off, or are we able to trust another person, to open ourselves up to love, to trusting another person and enabling that transformation to take place? Because generally speaking, the work of Scorpio is done through our interactions with other people. True reflections of our darkness aren't difficult to achieve if we just spend all our time by ourselves and don't interact with other people. It's only by interacting with different people that we understand the parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily recognise consciously otherwise. Our interaction with other people allow our unconscious to become conscious, which is the essence of Scorpio. So with the new moon, we may be looking at intentions around about learning to trust other people if that's an issue. It's also about equal power within relationships, so we don't try and if we have issues with control, so we feel the need to control everything, control other people, then this is symptomatic of feeling an inner powerlessness. If we have to try and control our outer reality, then it means at some level inside we don't have a good relationship with power ourselves, and we see power as something external that we have to control. So the new moon in Scorpio may also indicate or be an opportunity to set new intentions of redefining what power is to us, from external control to internal mastery, where we're not trying to control the outside world, we're trying to control our internal dynamic and our internal responses to things. Because we can't control the world around us, but we can control our response to it, and this is part of the mastery of Scorpio. And it's also about surrendering those egoic desires for control, for power, and for domination over other people. So this may be a time where we look at where do we have negative desires, so desires based on power and controlling other people, rather than surrendering to a higher power, this power that comes from the soul self, not the ego. So this is another possible theme for the new moon. But as before, I'll do another video on this later on, going into much more depth. Scorpio is a very deep and rich sign, full of potent with meaning, and only so much I can really discuss at this point. It deserves a separate video for it. And we've also got 3 days later, on the 21st of November, Neptune turns direct, having been retrograde in his home sign of Pisces since June this year. So during the time of Neptune retrograde, the veils of illusion which make up the ego are generally significantly weaker, so we're more susceptible to the energies around us during Neptune retrograde. But equally, we have more influence over the environment around us. Ideally, what we would be doing during Neptune retrograde is developing spiritual strength. So we're not looking for other people to save us from ourselves. We're looking to find strength within ourselves that comes from that soul self. So when we have that spiritual reserve, that psychic sensitivity, but also the ability to not take on board other people's psychic debris, this is some of the things that Neptune can help us with. And it's also, with that greater psychic sensitivity, it may also find that it's greater compassion. So with the Neptune moving direct again, the veils of illusion become thicker again, but whatever changes have taken place in the past 5 months or so, it's important that we don't forget them. We actually implement those changes into our lives. We don't just go back to where things were, just operating from the ego. It's important that whatever changes have taken place during this time, whatever old issues have been dissolved, remain that way, because Neptune is a dissolving force. Pluto may be destructive, maybe like a volcano, but Neptune dissolves things that are no longer valid, that no longer have any place in our lives. And this includes old emotional patterns, old addictive tendencies, but we have to do things consciously in that respect. So for Neptune in Pisces, things like meditation is one of the key ways to manifest the higher potentials of Neptune in Pisces, because this is a very spiritual time. With Neptune in Pisces, it's a time of spiritual renewal. Old ways that we've lived with for a long time are now dying with Neptune in Pisces, and things are transforming, and whatever no longer is needed in our lives is being dissolved in one way or another. And we can either consciously embrace it and operate from our spiritual self, or we can try and reject it, and then we end up dealing with escapist tendencies like addiction, like codependency, like excessive sleeping, daydreaming whilst avoiding taking action. Because with spiritual transformation, for it to take place, it requires us to take action. And one of the things we need to be aware of with Neptune in Pisces is a tendency to just give up, or just get so absorbed in our own dreams that we take no actions to manifest them. So Neptune in Pisces is a good time to connect with that sense of oneness, that universal ocean that we're all a part of. Each one of us is a single drop in the ocean. You can't get an ocean if you don't have all those drops to begin with. But Pisces is also about the unity of the drop with the ocean, and recognising that we're part of something far greater than the individual self. And it's important that we honour who we are, we don't let go of that, but we also dissolve some of the boundaries that are based in ego, so that we can radiate that spiritual love to other people. Finally, on the 22nd of November, the Sun moves into Sagittarius. This marks a transition of theme away from exploring the unconscious to understanding who we are in relation to the world around us, who we are in relation to the cosmos. And Sagittarius operates at two levels. There's the Sagittarius, the centaur, it's half man, half beast. So what we're looking at here is we need to, if we're operating from our lower animal self, then whatever with Sagittarius will be looking to indulge ourselves in all the material things in life, all the gratifications. So, it could be things like overindulgence in food, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and whatever Jupiter touches, he expands. And with Sagittarius, the higher level of Sagittarius is that spiritual, it's the feeling of spiritual union between two people. It's finding like-minded people. So we're not talking union of two people in a relationship, we're talking about the wider society here. Sagittarius deals with abstracts, deals with a higher order, and it teaches the natural laws of things. So if you look at the world around us, everything runs on certain fundamental laws, and Sagittarius is about understanding those laws or learning them. And the best place to learn it is actually nature. If we look around the natural world around us, all the spiritual laws that govern everything are revealed to us through nature. So with the Sun in Sagittarius, we may find that it's worth spending a bit more time in nature to relax and open ourselves up to high power, to open ourselves up to higher understanding of things. So Sagittarius is all about that learning process, and it's all about finding the answers to the fundamental questions of life. But in the process, we need to make sure that we don't become too wedded to any one way of thinking. Sagittarius rules our sense of ethics, our sense of justice, of laws, and it also governs our belief systems. So Gemini, the opposite sign, is all about researching, it's taking in all that information. Sagittarius creates a framework of beliefs to help us interpret things, to assign meaning to things. So it's that quest for meaning that we all have deep down, whether we know it or not, and we all have a need to have some sense of meaning in life, for things to have a sense of purpose. But for that, we need to understand ourselves, but we need to open our minds up. With Sagittarius, if we're not careful, Sagittarius rules things like religion and law and philosophy. Now, these things all contain spiritual wisdom within them. They all contain some degree of the truth. But we need to understand that because these are human systems, Sagittarius does deal with opening up to the cosmos, but it's still based in order. It's not the limitless energies of Pisces. It's still based on finding order in things and trying to understand the bigger picture. So it's still very mind-based. It's not coming from within, as in Gnosis. It's taking on board what's coming to us from the outside world and trying to make sense of it. But with this, we always need to keep our belief systems open to change. The negative side of Sagittarius is fanaticism. And by this I'm talking about where we have our own belief systems and we will not allow them to be challenged in any way, shape or form. If someone challenges them, we react in a negative way, we project onto them, and we have that need to be right, that self-righteousness that can destroy any relationship, whether it be our romantic relationships or with key friends. If we allow self-righteousness and intolerance to cloud our minds, cloud our judgments, then we end up in the shadow side of Sagittarius where things are divided rather than unity. And I think with the unity, we also need to bear in mind that there's two different levels of unity. You can have unity in uniformity, where yes, everyone's doing the same thing, but that kind of unity crushes people's spirits. People who don't resonate with that system end up being crushed by it. Whereas if we can achieve unity in diversity, where we see each person as an individual, we don't see them based on their type, so we don't see them based on their skin colour, the country they happen to be born in, whatever religion they may have to follow. If we see each person as a separate individual or as a unique person, there's still universal truths which tie us all together, but we need to celebrate our own uniqueness in the process and honour each other. Because when we can do this, we can achieve a true sense of comradeship. So we see that we're sharing the planet with 7 billion other people. And we don't all see things the same way, we don't all think the same way, and that's absolutely fine. With all these different ways of thinking and being, they're just different colours of the tapestry of life. If everyone thought the same way, we would just have a single colour and life would not be particularly interesting. But by having that diversity and by honouring it whilst trying to operate from the higher truths that unite us all together, it's the truth of love, of peace, of forgiveness, and other universal values like justice, where all sides are treated fairly and each side gets equal chance at things, then we achieve the high levels of Sagittarius, and this allows for the positive qualities of Sagittarius, like the gregariousness, the generosity, the benevolence. So we operate from the benevolent ruler side of Jupiter rather than the greedy fat man, where everything is about bigging ourselves up, bigging up the ego as much as we can. If we do operate from the soul south wherever, then that natural generosity, that clean goodness of spirit, and that spirit of giving can then permeate through our lives. And the more we can do that within ourselves, so we keep our minds open to new experiences, we allow our experiences to guide our beliefs rather than just what's been written down in a book however many thousands of years ago, what someone had told us to believe. If we allow life experiences to guide our belief systems and be open to new experiences which challenge that, then we can get much closer to the truth and we're much more aligned with the natural laws that underpin everything, and that when we're aligned with them, life achieves a nice happy flow where whatever we need comes to us. We're not having to fight all the time to achieve something, but we have to understand these natural laws, and the best place to do that is in nature, and spending a bit of solitude is good. Sagittarius may well be about comradeship, but we need to spend a bit of time for ourselves as well to recharge and open ourselves up to wisdom coming from nature. So I hope it's a useful guide for the astrology for November, and may you achieve much growth through this month of transformation and opening up to higher powers that can give us greater wisdom, a greater perspective on things, and allow us to see that not everything's happening around us, people doing to us. That's just the level of consciousness they may be at that point, but we have the opportunity to transform that within us so that what other people do no longer affects us, and we can radiate that unconditional love to other people, and we can embrace other people with an attitude of tolerance and kindness towards each other rather than arrogance, bigotry and intolerance, which sadly we've seen a lot of in the world around us these days. But that's just what we're being shown. For each act of intolerance and judgment that we see, there are thousands of acts of kindness and tolerance, peace and love and generosity given towards people. And if we can remember that we may not see those acts, but they're happening every single day, and happening far more often than we may realise. And if we can introduce that into our own lives, if we haven't already done so, making sure that we're not just blindly trusting people, we're still using our discernment, we're still using our senses or our intuition to see if something is true or not, or if the person is honest. If we trust ourselves and we have a greater faith in humanity as a whole, then we can shift the tides of change towards love rather than fear. So may November be a month of blessings for you. Take care.